Good morning, Peterborough. My name is Jim Tubb, and it is time for your Sports Break, broadcasted through the facilities of Trent Radio on 92.7 C Triple FM in Peterborough, Canada. This show can be streamed online at trentradio.ca, or you can follow what we're talking about on Twitter at SportsBreakTR. The weather outside today is a -1. It's a little chilly, but you could live in a t-shirt if you really wanted. Don't tell your mom, but you don't tell your mom what you're wearing anyways. It's an alright day, but it is still a BEA, beautiful day to talk about sports, ladies and gentlemen. And usually you get to sit here and listen to me talk all by myself and rant and think that I'm the most important, smartest person in the world. But today we have another person who thinks he's the most important, smartest person in the world. And I'm going to introduce to you Professor Stephen Brown from Trent University. Stephen, how's it going?
Pretty good. I'm really happy to be here on your last show.
Thanks.
That's a real honor.
Yeah. So, Stephen, you're a big sports guy, or at least big baseball fan, right?
Baseball, bit of basketball. Used to be hockey, but I moved too far away from Detroit to keep following the Wings. So
yeah, you don't want to follow the Wings anyways.
No.
They're not that good right now. I've classed with you a couple times, and whenever I try to get you off topic, whether it's during class or off, we talk about baseball.
Yeah.
And I realized that as much as there's nobody else to talk about baseball with, talking to you about baseball makes no sense, because your opinions are out there when it comes to stuff like the Houston Astros.
No.
And the cheating scandal of this past summer, or that came out this offseason about the 2017 season. So, as most of my listeners knew, because I did a rant on it, I think it was terrible. I think AJ Hinch, the general manager of the Houston Astros, should be banned from baseball forever, and I think the players should maybe receive a 1-year ban.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any. I have no problem with it at all. I mean, the sport is about winning, and if you encourage people to strive for their best and you pay them that amount of money, you bend all the rules you can bend, and if they snap, they snap. I just think other teams weren't quick enough out of the blocks on that. I mean, I have the same opinion about steroids. Years ago, there was a guy who used to write for the Globe, Larry Milson. He was their baseball writer. And when I was Master of Champlain, we ran a series every year where we'd have sports writers in to talk about things. Mm-hmm. We had a great debate with him on steroids because he was with you. He thought it had ruined the game. And then there was a lot of persuasive voices at that particular session saying, well, if you are encouraging players to be their absolute best, and they bend a rule, isn't there an ethical problem in slamming down on them because the game got caught doing it? When the game becomes embarrassed. And cheating it's a part of life. I mean, the problem with cheating is when you get caught, people want to dump all the moral and ethical issues on you. But otherwise, I don't see any point at all. You're not going to make the game pure, whatever the hell pure is, so let it go. I mean,
do you think this is on the same level as like pine tar? Because that's like everyone uses pine tar.
Yeah, I think they're all on the same level. It just that it gets more sophisticated. I mean, I was telling you, I years ago had a children's broadcast show in this facility, and it's improved hugely. Is that cheating? You've got all this digital stuff. We don't have any of that. You can stream online. And you'll say, yes, that's an inappropriate, it's apples and oranges, it's false equivalencies, but,
I don't think it is.
What gets you ahead?
Now that you say that, you think, I was going to say, well, we're not being paid based on our performance, but you are being paid on how good your performance is, you're rated on how good. I just still think the way baseball is played, you're rated and paid for your natural ability. And once you add an artificial artificial benefiter to that, whether it is steroids, whether it is knowing the signs through a computer and a screen, it changes the game. Because this guy standing on second relaying the signals, that's a game between the guy in second and the pitcher and the catcher.
Yeah.
But how is a pitcher supposed to defend themselves against a camera in the stands? How is a catcher supposed to
Well, you got to adapt. I mean, look at horse racing. Because when sports writing started, true sports journalism was horse racing, boxing, and baseball.
Yeah.
And those are the three in North America. In the UK, when it started in a big way in the early 19th century, late 18th century, it was boxing and horse racing. So think of all the ways in which, with horse racing, genetic manipulations, bloodlines, all of those things that are done now to improve the thoroughbred, to the point where, some of them are so refined, they die after a year of running. I mean, all those scandals out in California around that have more to do with the the way in which inbreeding and enhancing has gone on with that. In boxing, that most recent fight, I mean, do you want your great big, brawling Mexican in there, or your finely tuned, Brit, and once you moved into technologies and the like, look at the way in which the baseball and other sports make millions, pushing on billions of dollars out of taking advantage of technologies to broadcast the games, to bring in audiences. So Hinch and the Astros decided to take advantage of a bit of technology to catch up on lazy pitchers who think they only have to worry about the second baseman, while they're out there thinking about their multi-million-dollar investments. Fuck them, that's what I think. You should have been looking over your shoulder. The game is being broadcast all the way around the world. Why do you think the second baseman is the only guy trying to catch your signals?
So then, how does the game get back to? I guess can't even say where it was.
No.
So because you can't just have one team knowing what the other guy's throwing. So then you introduce that to every team, but then every team knows what the other team's throwing. It's just a home run derby.
No, then you got to really, protect your form of signaling. You've just got to work on that.
So
there
how?
are ways. Well, then you've got somebody, in your dugout who blocks the technology from the other team.
Are you talking about
ways, you just
bringing
got
an
to
EMP
adjust
in
it.
here?
I just got to adjust.
At some point, do you think they could ever just take baseball and take it back to the old, man with a stick and a man with a rock, and not
in a capitalist society.
Sure, they would never. I guess they wouldn't make any money on it, would they?
It's all about that. Yeah.
I just don't see how this can be.
I mean, they will do something. They're not going to ban Hinge, and they're not going to.
You don't think so at all?
No, I think they'll come with some kind of major, and they can't take the World Series title away or do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
They can't do any of that stuff. So there'll be some sort of fine. Maybe Hinge will get, banned from the baseball operation for a year. I think they'll just leave the players alone. When it comes down to it, if they're going to have to go after somebody, go after the guy at the top. Go after, let it go upstream. Because you don't want to. You're going to ban Verlander. You're going to ban major guys.
They don't want to take Jose Altuve out.
And the Players Association will get after them. So they'll settle down. They'll have to do something. But I don't see the issue. I think it's just other teams. Sour grapes because they didn't think of it first, or they didn't have the guts to risk.
But it didn't even come out from other teams first. It came out from Ken Rosenthal.
I forgot about that. Yeah,
on the Athletic.
Yeah, but look at Ken Rosenthal. I mean, he's been a stick in the mud from the beginning. I don't even know why he's still out there. I thought he would have disappeared by now. He shrinks more every year. That he would just become a.
He is the face of baseball reporting.
Just become a walking bow tie. Yeah. That's unfortunate. That's unfortunate.
I think the only reason
that's something to me is a blight on baseball. Cheating? No. Ken Rosenthal? Yes.
I think the only reason this came out was because he no longer works for Major League Baseball. He works for the Athletic.
Yeah.
And Fox. And if he worked for MLB, they would never want this.
Yeah.
The only thing I
have forgot about him being the ultimate source, and everybody else piled on.
And Mike Fiers came out and said
everybody piled on. Yeah.
What do you think of that? What do you think of Mike Fiers coming out against his team that he won a World Series with?
Yeah. I haven't got any sense yet. What do you think he's got to gain from it? I'm always wondering, what have he got to gain?
He keeps saying he wants the game pure.
Yeah.
But he also went to Houston and got shelled this year.
That's what people say about steroids and all the rest. Barry Bonds was still going to be. I mean, look at the people who benefited from steroids.
Major League Baseball.
They were all the best people who were just that much better and became superheroes. So for a while, we had some superhero baseball going on. The league constantly fiddles with the ball now in order to, get seasons like that to boost their ratings.
I was going to ask you about that. What did you think about that this season? With the rumor that the ball was different in the regular season and postseason?
Well, in '87, something was going on with the ball too, because the Tigers had a guy named Matt Noakes who was their rookie catcher that year, who still has a Tiger rookie record for home runs and set the, at that point he passed Yogi Berra for the major records for home runs by a
catcher?
By catcher in the American League. And he never came close to that again. his career was over in 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
And there was a lot in 87, and there was the rumor then. So it's been going on. I mean, 87, that's what, 33 years ago? 32, 33 years. It's a long time.
If you listen to the show,
and
Stephen, I can't do math. Don't ask me math.
You're in baseball and you can't do stats?
Don't worry. There's other people for that.
I would look for a gift for a friend who's a basketball nut in Toronto, and I can't find a good basketball stats book. Not the way you get good basketball, good baseball stats books.
Buy him the thing that I bet everyone's eating up right now, and it's the crappy Raptors championship.
Yeah, no. What I've got, there's good
costs
analytic books that by
Yeah.
PhDs doing range analyses, percentages of 3-point shots and that kind of thing, but nothing like the career stat stuff you get in baseball.
Yeah.
But that's an aside anyway.
Yeah.
No, I think that happens a lot. Then they overdo it, and they're not sure about the balance of the game, and they roll it back. And
Well, this year it seemed like everybody hit 20 home runs. If you didn't hit 20
unless
home
you're in
runs,
Detroit.
No. The Tigers, I don't
Dixon,
know how to
15
tell you.
home runs led the team, and it was pretty sad.
Well, Castellanos would have.
And,
I don't know what Castellanos.
yeah, he
finished
moved
with,
on
but-
before that. And he hit the bulk of his home runs when he was in Chicago. He was really crashed up. Because he's such a great gap line drive hitter that Comerica was made for him to hit doubles.
Yeah.
But not get those home runs he could get when he went to the Cubs. And he was still rolling in the doubles. In fact, that gets overlooked now because it becomes such a strikeout home runs that no one sees. No doubles. No, we were talking. No one cares about stolen bases.
No.
But no, it's been an interesting era for two-base hits because there's some extraordinary line drive hitters out there. Castellanos probably the best of the bunch. But,
So I don't know how to say this properly, Stephen, but you're old as dirt.
Yeah.
Or up there in the most professional way possible.
oh, I know. I just you don't see me, so you can't tell. So does the voice give it away? I hope not.
No. How has baseball changed since you started watching baseball till now?
We were talking about that a bit earlier. I guess it's the stadium experience because I grew up in Detroit and Windsor. When we moved to Windsor, you could walk over the bridge, for a nickel, and get into a baseball game for 50, 75 cents in the center field bleachers. If you took the tunnel bus, you'd walk up Michigan. And the stadium experience was the number one. The national broadcasts were selective teams. You got radio broadcasts all the time, and baseball was great on radio. People my age will remember, and people older, there was a time where ticker tape would come through, give you a minimum amount, and guys like Ronald Reagan made their name as sports broadcasters before they went to Hollywood, making up the game.
Oh, wow.
They would get the minimal, single to left. So they'd be a number of minutes behind, and then in their booth out in the Midwest, they would invent the drama around it, including background noises for cheering. So you had that, the radio, and then, you go to the ballpark. And, I was telling you earlier, there were twilight doubleheaders were the big thing. Midweek, you'd go, there'd be a late afternoon game, 2 hours off, and then they'd play in the evening. 2 games for the price of one. If you got there early enough, you could, for $1.50, sit in the right field upper deck that overhung the field and be there for 6-7 hours, depending on how long the games ran.
And
so
that'd be one of the best days ever.
Oh, no, those were
amazing.
Extraordinary.
Yeah.
And I was telling you earlier, in between, teams have come out to practice. They'd hit fungos up into the deck, from first base just for fun. And you had that kind of interaction because the players were beginning to make a lot of money. I can remember Al Kaline turned down $100,000 in the 70s because he didn't think he was worth it anymore. So they were just beginning to do that. But there still was that sense, you had a lot more minor leagues. They're going to cut the minor leagues even more this year. Yeah, we used to be called D-class ball, in which guys were getting, $10 a game. But they were signed to whoever the regional professional team was. Mm-hmm. So I never had a gym teacher in high school who wasn't signed by Detroit or signed by the Wings. They'd never get near the major leagues.
Yeah.
But they had played, or in the summers they played in a semi-pro league. And if they ever, had a magic year, they could get, called up. Wasn't going to happen, but it meant you had that closeness where you really felt that your local team was local and that you were welcome. The stadium was a home you shared with them. And there was lots of semi-pro ball all around your region that, connected to it.
So what did it take for most people you knew? Like, for the Tigers to offer them a contract? Was it they could throw hard, hit hard? Like
there were just scouts everywhere. There were guys who were scouts for a coffee, in those, in all those neighborhoods and areas. Guys who were just, what it took, I don't know. There was a Don Pepper who made the Tigers. There was also another Don Pepper who never did, but was in D-class ball, who was a gym teacher at Forster High School in Windsor. And he talked about it, and he just said he was in the summer hardball league. They signed the top players. He was big first baseman when he could hit the ball a mile. Mm-hmm. Couldn't run, couldn't do anything else.
But he could hit the ball.
In the good weather, you'd get out in the fields behind the high school and just show off how far he could hit the ball. You'd spend gym just slow pitching to Mr. Pepper and chasing fungos out in the street on the other side of the high school.
If you didn't give him a good pitch, he'd mark you down.
Oh yeah, and I think a lot of it was connectedness. A major league team wanting to be connected to the demographic in their region, and that was a way of doing it. That regional connectedness, and they don't need that. What's their region now? Broadcast rights. Some teams are the Raptors. Very clever GM, made the team international. They're going to make a lot of money in Africa, in Spain, in Asia. Because of the way they develop such a diverse team, suits Toronto, that diversity. But also the world vision is there. You get a Nigerian as your GM, and he can see the connectedness that, an inward-looking GM isn't going to see. So I think baseball was one of the first sports to do that in a major way. To really begin to realize they had to connect, to wide, and they had the Caribbean and Japan there, as naturals.
So as I said before the show, we were talking about how, like, the Tigers, you could argue or easily say the Tigers' best player of all time, Miguel Cabrera.
Yeah,
maybe. Who else would you?
I think you can't knock Ty Cobb, someone who dominated.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Until Ruth came along, no one dominated the game like that. And he was, again, not unlike Miguel, but, more of a 5-tooler. Miguel could never run. He was willing to stand at third base and take line drives in the face for the team. And when they got fielder, that, to me, was truly being a valuable player. So, okay, I'll go back to play third base, risk injury, so this power hitter can be at first base and maybe get us to the World Series.
So who DH'd? I didn't watch baseball enough that time. Who DH'd for Detroit so Fielder couldn't and Miggy couldn't go to first?
Who did they move through? I would have to think back. Lewis would probably remember that immediately. Check that.
What's that, 2012?
Yeah, the first DH in Detroit was Al Kaline, who very reluctantly did it at the end of his career. And then they had a few people in with him, but he DH'd quite regularly. Just to get to the 3,000 hits.
Yeah, what's a good year for that? 2011, 2012?
2011, 2012 should give it. I mean, 2013 was the year that Fielder
Victor
screwed
Martinez.
up on them. That's right.
I don't know why. Yeah,
that's right, because he caught a bit. That's right, because he was the number 3 catcher.
Right.
A DH, and he could still, his knees held up enough at the beginning that when they played a National League team or when they went to the postseason, he caught. Yeah.
Do you think Miguel Cabrera playing third cost him a bit of his career?
No, I don't think so.
No, okay.
No, I think he built up too much muscle. You look at him as he came up, and he even talks about that now. He thinks that you can't hit home runs unless you're a great big guy.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get him to lose weight, and he doesn't want to lose weight. And the less you work out, the more that gets fatty on you. And when you see he came up like a lot of those guys, good bat speed.
Yeah.
Good hand-eye coordination, good bat speed, and then he started putting on the muscle, the way so many players did at one point, so that they could just drive the ball that much further.
Well, I guess he played for between right field and third base for the first 6 years of his career.
Yeah. And, that way he was a bit like Pujols, who neither of them had a position when they first came up.
Yeah, Pujols was left field.
And so
third
they
base
moved them around, and then they settled in some place when they, when the team could get them that spot that did the least damage to them defensively.
This is a question I wanted to ask you for a while. Who do you think is the better player of all time? Miguel Cabrera, People love doing this, and I hate it. But
and Detroit
Miguel
or just
Albert
run
Pujols?
across. I hate to say it, but I think Pujols.
Yeah.
Because he could run early in his career. Miguel could never run. And he is the better defensive player. And he's lasting longer, Pujols.
Yeah.
And he's lasting longer.
And
That's
not
the shame
even.
of it.
Like, they're both kind of falling off.
Oh, no. Yeah, but if you look at the slight age difference, he's still hitting his 20 home runs. He's still getting his 100 RBIs.
Yeah.
He's over 600 home runs. No, Miguel's still pushing 500.
Yeah, I never even thought of it.
And I would have thought, at one point, even just 2-3 years ago, it looked like Miguel would finish his career, well over 2,000 RBIs, well over 600 home runs, over 700 doubles. Because what people forget, he was a double machine when he came to Detroit because he's such a line drive hitter. Mm-hmm. All of that's fallen off. So, if you look at how well, Big Pappy did at the end of his career in Boston, I thought when Miguel had the big contract, I remember saying to Lewis and others, it's okay. He'll be like the big guy in Boston. He'll stand at first base and still hit 35 home runs, drive in 110, and power anchor the team in the number 4 position.
But he's
not doing it.
Does this tarnish Miguel Cabrera for you at all?
No, because I think it's wear and tear.
Yeah.
And he had enough of a peak. And for 5 years, he was the best player.
Oh, for sure.
Whatever people say about Triple Crowns and things, the War fans don't like it, it still mattered. And
I think
it was still an achievement that's not going to happen again.
Yeah. I didn't watch baseball soon enough.
No.
But you still know that. Miguel Cabrera won 2 Triple Crowns in a row.
One. No, just the one.
Was it just
he
one?
He almost made it.
That's what it was. 2 MVPs in a row. 2 MVPs in a row. But, like you think of that, I always think back to that Detroit Tigers team and the rotation, and you brought it up, of like they had Verlander, Scherzer, Porcello, Anibal Sanchez.
Sanchez was their number 5 guy.
Yeah, Sanchez was number 5. I think I'm missing one.
So Price was in there that one year.
David Price,
So they had 4 guys who either had or would win Cy Young awards, and Sanchez, who led the league in ERA.
Yeah.
they've
all won World Series now. They've
all backing them up. Yeah. And Sanchez was one of those really bright pitchers who you figure sometimes would overthink and get himself in trouble. But and if you put together a team like that in basketball, you just storm through. Basketball, you get that key player and you build around them and you win. And you win. Yeah. Same thing in the NFL. You get the right combination and you're invincible. But Yankees. An interesting stat I thought at the end of this season was this is the first decade since the 1920s in which the Yankees haven't appeared in and won a World Series. And yet they've had some extraordinary teams.
Yeah.
Now, if they signed Cole, I still think, they could struggle.
Yeah.
Injuries are more of a problem now than they used to be. Partly that's because teams protect their players. They won't let guys play injured. I can remember, pitchers had short careers because they would just fire steroids into their arms to get them going all season. Their arms literally would fall off.
Everyone except Nolan Ryan.
Yeah. Yes. A guy in Detroit, Joe Esparma, great fastball pitcher, and his arm eventually just literally fell off. He just couldn't move it at all. So you're investing millions in a player. You're going to protect them.
True.
You're going to hold them until next year. And that player is not going to play through an injury.
Oh, no.
Because they are looking to their contract years. So I think that impacts on a team, where you can stack the team. The Yankees this year decimated by injury.
Mm-hmm. But they still perform.
Could happen again.
Yeah. Like they still perform with injuries.
Yeah. Well, because they had those young guys who come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Where the Yankees got such a good minor league system, when you consider where they drafted. But the Tigers' big challenge has been, we were talking about this, completely rebuilding their backroom at Mint, because it was just a bunch of fat old guys. Who still thought, if you smoked a cigar and went and watched some hardball games in the neighborhood, you were a scout. Because they're way behind on Caribbean players, Mexican players, Japanese, Korean players. They just haven't got an overseas organization at all.
Do you feel like the Yankees have better prospects come into their program just because they are the New York Yankees?
But you still got to draft those people. Most draftees sign. You throw enough money, people do now. I just think they've got a very good.
They've got like a modern front office.
They've got a very good scouting system. Okay. They look everywhere. They've made some good minor league trades. I think they're just on top of it.
I think that's a very underrated part of baseball and developing is the minor league trades. is knowing we've got this prospect that looks good but isn't, and they've got that prospect that's good but doesn't.
Yeah.
And they make these trades
and
work their way out. But you watched the Core 4 play in New York. We'll just do this quick.
Yeah.
How was that? I'll say it for lack of a better term, how annoying was that as a non-New York Yankees fan?
How annoying was what? I missed that.
Watching the Core 4 and the coverage behind them. And the Yankees from 95 to 2001 when they had the World Series, they went to the World Series almost every year.
Well, for me, I grew up, the first baseball game I went to, my Uncle Andy, who had immigrated, there were three families. We all immigrated together from Glasgow. Suddenly Detroit first, then my family moved to Windsor. And he introduced me to baseball. And he just hated the Yankees. Now, at that time, there was a guy pitching for Detroit called Frank Larry, and every team had their Yankee killer, and Larry was a real Yankee killer. So I just could not accept anything about the Yankees.
Yeah.
From the time I started following baseball, the late 50s, in a very minor way, when I was 5, 6 years old, just being aware it was out there, and in a more informed way. Until Judge came along, and I liked him.
Yeah.
And so the last couple of years, Lewis still hates the Yankees. And I say, but Aaron Judge is a nice guy. And then he'll say, Lou Gehrig was a nice guy too. And I think, yeah, it's true. You just, and there's that city rivalry. Detroit's been a city that
has had hardship.
Yeah, and at one point was an extraordinary city. The largest department store between New York and Los Angeles was Hudson's. The best art gallery outside of New York was the Detroit Institute of Fine Arts. Still an extraordinary collection of artwork that in the 20s, the new money that came out of the auto industry reinvested in Detroit.
Yeah.
And pizza money and cheap mortgages are kind of doing the same thing now for two Detroit billionaires.
Yeah.
But there's always been that city competition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess you could easily say it looks like Derek Jeter in his first year in the ballot.
Yeah, I know.
He's probably going to make the Hall of Fame.
And he was not a fielder. He was not, it's a myth.
He was a league
never
average
stayed
fielder
at shortstop. Yeah.
Yeah.
He should not have spent his career at shortstop. And as someone pointed out this week, Lou Whitaker, who is still not in the Hall of Fame, has a better career WAR and played fewer seasons.
Yeah.
Because he was a better defensive player throughout his career.
Yeah. So to get into it, last night, it was last night.
2 nights ago.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It was the Modern Era Committee.
Yeah.
They induct a couple players into the Hall of Fame every year from certain eras in baseball, and they introduced
Ted Simmons and Marvin Miller.
Right, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they didn't introduce Lou Whitaker, who second baseman, right?
Yeah.
And we talked about this before.
Whole career,
second baseman.
Yeah.
We talked about this before, where they just don't give the respect, it seems, or...
He was a very quiet guy.
Yeah.
And even while he was still playing, there was speculation. People would say cruel things. People said he had a subnormal IQ, which wasn't true. Other people said he was autistic. That might be true. We don't know our understanding of what autism was. 40 years ago, it's nothing like it is now. He was a very quiet, reserved player. Very few friends. Seldom, if ever, spoke to the press. So he was at the disadvantage of being in Detroit to begin with, and he was the least vocal player on an outstanding team. So Morris was always camera-friendly. Chet Lemon, who was his closest friend, while Chet was there playing center field, big, always quotable. Larry Herndon in left field. There were lots of players of color in Detroit who broadcasters and print journalists could go to and get quotes while Whitaker was quietly getting out the back door of the dressing room. I think that did hurt him. I think people were shocked to find out what his stats were after he failed to make the cut in his first year on the Hall of Fame ballot.
Yeah.
So I think that's still working against him. People don't know him. Because, Ted Simmons played some third base, caught, respectable player, but nowhere in the league that Whitaker is. And Marvin Miller, that one I like. He changed baseball. Whether you like it or not.
Yeah, he changed
baseball in terms of players having
paid,
more than a fair cut of the revenue, and unions really being able to shut the game down.
Yeah.
At the time, people hated him because of the strikes, but he should be there historically. If no one ever remembered Ted Simmons, other than his dear beloved family, there'd be no loss.
Yeah.
But not to recall Whitaker as the second, and not to have that combo in there, Whitaker and Trammell, is a loss.
So here's one for you. Only 9 players in Major League history have accrued as many wins above replacement, which is WAR, as Whitaker's 75.1, and not received election to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So, maybe the next, I don't know how it works, but it's going to be 3 or 4 years before we can get
3 years.
Is it
3 years?
It's every 3 years, right?
Yeah.
You think I'd think he's have to be in from what I've read.
He only got 6 votes this time. It's stunning. The 4 second basemen who are above him are all in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And if you remove the second basemen who are below him, you'd be taking out people like Gehringer, the other Tiger second baseman, who was without question the top second baseman in the 1930s. I mean, it maybe raises some doubts around WAR, which still needs to, but you can't take away what Whitaker was doing. I mean, he and Trammell, people don't talk about double plays anymore because the running's gone out of the game, as we were saying.
Yeah.
At the peak, when guys were stealing 100 bases a year, when your pitcher needed to get those guys off first base as quickly as possible, they were the top double play combination for a decade. Mm-hmm. No one came near them. And historically, I think they're still one of the top double play combinations in the history of baseball.
I feel like the farther away we get from him playing, farther away. He hasn't played for a very long time. I feel like the more years you
he's
add,
62 now. So,
the less of a chance. Because it's people just knowing the name. And maybe they'll vote just on the name. But as you get farther away, I feel like people just seem to forget and move modern.
Yeah, they do. Except the stats are so strong.
Yeah.
But it's going to take campaigning.
Yeah.
But people just don't know him. If you look at that committee, probably none of those guys ever talked because he didn't talk to anybody.
Yeah.
And that makes the difference.
It's like Larry Walker now. Everyone's petitioning for Larry Walker to get in, and I think he should.
Yeah.
Because the whole Coors Field effect just blows me away. How people believe that's the only reason people can perform.
Yeah. Because his stats away from Coors Field are
almost better.
Just fine.
Yeah.
So there's no real issue there.
Yeah. It's not like his home stats were
but that's going to stick to him.
Yeah.
I mean, we're getting back to where we started the show. It makes no sense to me not to have Clemens in the Hall of Fame and Pete Rose. I mean, I don't care about. So he's an idiot.
Yeah.
I mean, Babe Ruth was, an idiot. I mean, no one said you have to be a genius to get into the Hall of Fame. How you can have? No one is ever going to come near that hit record.
No.
And he was a hit machine. I mean, the guy went on hitting singles till he was 45.
Yeah.
The last really effective player manager.
Yeah.
He played over 500 games all the way around. And no one could touch any of that, but because he was an idiot and talked like an idiot.
Because he had a gambling addiction. He's not going to get into the Hall of Fame.
And he's also stupid. He says a lot of stupid things. And he was always screwing around and embarrassing the game. So the gambling gave them a good excuse for somebody who, the owners never liked, and a lot of the players didn't like, because he was so annoying. But Bonds, Clemens, and him, arguably 3 of the greatest players of all time. It's worse than Shula's Joe not being there.
Yeah.
You figure out they're these key players who have just been cut away.
The way I see it is Pete Rose never bet against himself or the Cincinnati Reds or whatever team he played for. He always bet that they would win. Yeah. Because that's who, Charlie Hoffman.
Well, no, the thing is, even if he bet, with his team, he was playing to win. It was a motivator. Right? It's like steroids. These are all motivators. Or, cameras hidden in center field. They're motivators for your team to win. You're out there and we've got an advantage they don't have. Rose always had the advantage. His own money was on the line.
I guess. But that's the one I think, I hope someday a commissioner comes in and that's his first thing.
I don't think he'll get in until he's dead.
I was just going to say that.
I think when he's dead, they're not going to let him stand up on the podium and say something stupid, which is what he would do. He just can't help himself.
As soon as you say that, that's maybe not the worst. Because I'd be scared if he got up there and said something stupid. Yeah. People would no longer think of Pete Rose as the hit king. Yeah. It would be like, look at this idiot up there. Yeah. But
the guy's wardrobe,
he signs every baseball, how many hits at zero steroids. Yeah. So you've watched a lot of baseball, and I wonder, who is one player you've seen that you think you'll never see a player like them again? For me, it's Mike Trout right now.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever see a player like Mike
Trout. And I've maybe seen him live twice.
Mike Trout?
But yeah.
Oh, I've never seen. I haven't seen him
But somebody who I've really seen and fallen off, well, I'll never see a player like. We were talking about this before the show. Ron LaFleur.
Yeah.
Who came out of the Michigan State prison. He was on a long felony sentence he was serving. They got him an early release. Billy Martin went out there with Gates Brown, another ex-con who one of the all-time great pinch hitters who was fundamental to the Tigers in the 60s. And he identified him. When they went out and got him, he'd started playing ball there, came, a few minor league games and straight into the major leagues.
Yeah.
And ended up, establishing the stolen base records in Detroit and in Montreal. Had a bad personality problem. They got him in all kinds of trouble, and all kinds of addictions. But just a pure ball player who, with very little, training, walked out there. After a couple of seasons, was hitting .320. Never a great fielder, but extraordinarily good, considering he'd never caught a baseball until he was probably 23 or 24, and probably close to 30, at least 28, before he was signed out of prison.
Well, it's like what we said before. It's like Johnny Bauer in the Toronto Maple Leafs. He didn't play in the majors till he was 34.
Yeah. No, because we're talking, they had all those Allen Cup teams and things, and guys who were working in factories and playing hockey, and no mask, no equipment, just that old tough guy image of sports, which is
idiotic looking back.
Terry Sawchuk, who was a guy I remember in Hall in Chicago who vomited before every game. Him and his brother he's in the Hall of Fame now.
Yeah.
All these guys who you would vomit if you were a goalie back then. And,
even though they didn't shoot hard, but you're still getting 60 miles, 60 miles an hour puck in the face.
Yeah.
It's gonna hurt.
I mean, because I think Sarah Chowchuk, Terry Sawchuk started wearing a mask after how many stitches he had in his face before he decided.
Because he was the guy that put stitches all over his mask, right?
Yeah, just to. But it was a whole different world. But LaFleur, that was just a unique player. And again, he's not well enough known because he was an ex-con and he was a jerk. And when he left baseball, he was a jerk. And during baseball, he was a jerk.
Baseball or hockey?
Baseball. Ron LaFleur.
I'm back to
I
was thinking Guy LaFleur.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Another jerk for sure, but not on the level of Ron LaFleur.
Yeah.
And he was black.
Yeah.
A guy of color from Detroit who's a jerk. New York baseball's not going to pay the attention to him they should. They made a movie about him.
Yeah.
And there was a book based on his biography and based on his life biography, and then he just disappeared. But
do you have a player now that you
who else? The Bird, Mark Vittridge.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was extraordinary. I can remember my brother calling me in. In fact, I was outside playing a pickup game. And he said, you got to see this guy. It was in April. And he had come up out of nowhere. And he talked to the baseball. And it was
he a pitcher?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Teammates made a good play. He'd run around, shake their hands. And it was all natural. He was a complete kook. And he was called the Bird because he looked a bit like Big Bird, whose voice just died yesterday.
Oh, really?
And he had a brilliant rookie season.
Yeah.
19 wins, led the league in ERA. Absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
And the next season, he hurt his knee shagging flies during spring training. That led to an arm injury. He dragged on for a couple of years, left baseball, had enough money to buy himself a gas station, service station back in Massachusetts where he was from.
Yeah.
Ran that and really enjoyed it. And then a car fell on him and killed him. His wife just won a lawsuit about it recently.
Oh, wow.
So, and people would go and say, how do you feel about your career fizzling? All these guys are making millions and millions. He said, yeah, I only ever really liked cars anyway. And he said, look, it got me my own service station. And he was just a natural kind of ebullient guy.
Yeah.
But life didn't like him. He had his 1 year, his rookie of the year, and then, and all the way down, life. So there was him too in Detroit. Yeah. And again, Tiger fans will talk about him because it was just that season of the Bird where you had this guy who was just naturally kooky and was a delight to watch because he was enjoying the game in a way nobody else had ever enjoyed the game.
Do you have any player that wasn't not a non-Detroit Tiger that you who resonated with early on? Not now. Well, yeah, before
early on.
Nowadays baseball.
Yeah, let me think about that for a minute.
Okay.
And who's that Boston shortstop the same time as Jeter, who also just injured his way out of career?
Ramirez?
Italian guy. And,
Not many.
remember, he used to have all that weird motion. He'd put his gloves on and off his hands and fiddle with the bat. And,
It's not many. No, it's not many.
No.
He played left field.
No. This guy was at shortstop, and I remember really, and again, it was the way he played the game, all the superstitions he brought into it. When I was younger, I think my generation really grew up admiring Roberto Clemente.
Yeah.
And if you're in the Detroit, Windsor area, you had a real affection for players of color because you're in a community of color. I mean, I went, unlike a lot of Canadians, there are a lot of, Afro-Canadians, in the schools that I went to in Windsor. And so you were, you were not just comfortable with that diverse community, but you were aware it wasn't being represented. And I told you, Detroit was the second last team to actually have a full-time black player on the roster.
Yeah, and their first player was Ozzie Virgil.
Yeah. So you felt a real need to follow them.
Was the shortstop Nomar?
Yeah, Nomar Garcia. Yeah, Parra.
Garcia Parra. Thank you.
Yeah,
I didn't want to have to try to say it.
Yeah, that was him. Yeah. And what I liked about him was, at the time the both came up, he was clearly the better player than Jeter, but he was in Boston, so he wasn't getting the coverage, and he was more fun to watch. And he was just better all around, faster.
You really don't like Derek Jeter, do you?
Well, I just think he got over a pipe. It's not that I don't like him. You just sort of look at someone who amassed good offensive numbers, but was overrated as a defensive player. If they had moved him he wouldn't allow them to move him. When they got Rodriguez, he said, "No, I'm my shortstop." He so much wanted, to play that position for his whole career that. That's what I found annoying. You got to know when it's time to move. I mean, Cabrera didn't have to move to third to accommodate fielder. And in fact, that first spring training game, he took a ball right in the face. When he moved back to third because he couldn't. He'd lost the reflexes, and it was that. Garcia Parra was a real shortstop.
Do you think it was like the three, like the dive into the stands, the run away from the first base jump throw, and the flip? I think that's what gets him his. Everyone thinks he was one of the best shortstops of all time.
Yeah, but he was no Smith, Oh,
no! Well,
I mean,
no one was
there's an acrobat,
no one was Ozzie Smith.
And that's so I think that's partly, and the Yankee thing, and that makes and going in on the first ballot. Okay, the offensive numbers may be justified, but people talking about him being a unanimous selection,
like the only one
that would be,
and Mariano deserved that.
Oh, yeah.
Greatest closer of all time, easily.
Yeah. And his postseason record is unbelievable.
Well, you look at that, you kind of think. More people have walked on the moon than scored a run against Mariano Rivera.
Just kind of think, postseason, you did that many years? That consistently? That's that aspect that WAR can't measure.
Yeah.
That ability to play under pressure. When the money's on the line. That's what Gibson was like in Detroit. Yeah. A friend of mine, Don Brown, who I grew up with and played baseball with, when we were living in different cities as young adults. And in the 80s, when Gibson was there, you knew when Gibson was going to hit home. We played a game of phone tag to see who could phone the other first when you could smell a Gibson home run.
Oh, really?
And that's why that possibly the greatest home run of all time, that pinch hit home run on one leg in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
He got the MVP award in Los Angeles, batting .276 because of his situational hitting.
Yeah.
Because when you needed the hit, he would get it from you. A lot of people said it was his football instincts, that he just had those instincts and we need those 5 yards now.
Yeah,
someone's got to get those 5 yards. I'm going to get those 5 yards. Mm-hmm. Whatever it was, that was there for him. His numbers in no way demonstrate what exciting a player he was under pressure. And that's the thing about Morris. His numbers don't look Hall of Fame worthy, but if you grew up watching his career, you knew he was the guy. Like Verlander now.
Like Jack Morris?
If you needed, Morris, if you needed that win, he would put him in there.
Yeah.
His ERA's inflated because he always said, why should I waste my arm with a 5-run lead? And he would. If Tigers were up 9-4, he'd win 9-7 because his sense was, ERA, what's that? Wins mean something, and I'm out here to eat innings. If I can protect the bullpen, why should they come out and give up the 3 runs? I can do that for them, And that kind of attitude's an old school attitude, and it doesn't wash, with the way current stats work.
Do you see baseball going in a way, do you think this is a positive way baseball's going with the 3 situations of home run, strikeout, and walk?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, everything changes all the time. Talk to some of my colleagues at Trent who are my age will tell you the universities are ruined. It'll never be as old people do that kind of crap.
Yeah.
Like in the 1930s, the game was crazy like that.
Yeah.
And that's where people like Chuck Klein got into the Hall of Fame because the size of stadiums, the nature of the way the game was played, it just comes and goes. The pitcher-dominated games of the 60s were extraordinary to watch in a stadium.
Yeah.
But once baseball started moving to multiple broadcast audiences, they were going to change after the 60s because they could see a new way to go, and that worked for the guys who wanted to sit in the center field bleachers, the old men with their cigars, sitting out there, sneaking their Stroh's beers cans, into the stadium. But it didn't work for a mass audience. Mm-hmm. So this will go for a while. It's like 3-pointers in basketball. People are still arguing, did that ruin the game?
I think you're right in saying that people, unless you're into baseball, a no-hitter is no fun to you because you don't get to see hits. But if you're into baseball, a no-hitter is one of the best games you can see. Whoever, even if it's against your team. Justin Verlander threw one this year against the Jays.
Yeah.
And that was fun to watch.
He's got 2 against the Jays. The first one I saw. Yeah. And in fact, when I had to leave our seats, and my son and my daughter stayed, and I went out and just walked in the runway because I knew from the 5th inning on
something special
to the 7th inning, I wouldn't look up. Because I knew if I looked up, I would jinx it. And then at the 7th inning stretch, I just went out and didn't come back. Because I just knew if I stayed, he wasn't going to get it. So,
do you ever feel silly getting that invested into sports, where it's like, oh, I can't look at the hit because if I see he has 0 hits, he's going to give up a hit. Whereas, in the nicest way, it doesn't matter whether you look up or not.
Yeah.
Do you think that adds to sports?
Yeah, it does, because it's the intensity of being part of the anxiety of the moment. Even when I'm watching at home, you asked Catherine the other day, my wife, does she watch baseball with me? No, I don't allow her to, except in those moments, because then I have to go into the bathroom and someone has to watch the game in my place.
Yeah.
So in really tight games, when the Tigers were really part of it, for that almost a decade, I'd be watching on TV. I would just go and sit in the bathroom or listen to it on the radio, because I've always felt watching was the problem. So I know I'll go and sit in the car and listen to it on the radio if I can pick it up, which is sometimes hard to do.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine just sitting and listening and just hoping.
I'll listen to it, but if I watch, it's going to. And I think that's where you sense it's like going to a concert or being in a live play. It's the physical engagement. I mean, sport, if you're watching sport and you're distanced from it, that, to me, strikes me as being really contradictory. If those guys are completely physically engaged to the point that they're damaging their bodies with the drugs that they're taking, with the way they built themselves up, with all, to win, if you're not physically brought in, it's like watching a piece of theater or being at a live performance of a rock or a punk band or whatever form you're into. You get caught up in it physically.
Yeah.
If you don't, you shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
You're just wasting space for somebody. So So I think that's part of it. Mm-hmm. It's not an intellectual activity.
I feel like you could very easily relate baseball to theater.
Oh yeah.
Just the highs and lows and just like the No, I think it's a great sport and thank you for coming on to talk about it.
Oh,
today.
we're done already. Oh well.
Yeah. Well,
last show.
Yeah, we've got about 4 minutes left, and as Steven said, this is the last show of the season. Rochelle said that earlier. This is my last show here at Trent Radio. I didn't get canned. Haven't said anything that bad yet.
I could do that for you.
Yeah. I'm going to mute your mic while I can. Come January, I go to Loyalist College in Belleville. That is part of my program. And, so I can no longer do Trent Radio at the same time. It just won't work. I don't have that much time on my hands, busy. Say that in case mom's listening. Always doing schoolwork. But, no, I've been at Trent Radio here since first year. That's 2.5 years. And, it's been fun. You started, for those that listen from the start, I scripted a show. I would write 25 pages and read off of it every day, and I thought I was the smartest person in the world. And it was just a terrible show, and I'm sorry for those that listened. And then second semester that year, I had Matt and Kent come on, and they did a great job. Matt came from England and talked about the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he did his best, and he was amazing. And then last year, we started this run and gun style of just, I would have links and read. And this year, we've had two guests on. We had Rachel, and we had Steven. Again, Steven, thanks for coming on today.
No, it was a pleasure.
But this, like I said, this is it. And this has given me a great opportunity to start my career as a broadcaster or a radio guy for sports and in general. And I just want to say thank you to everyone that's listened, whether you're over your airwaves here in Peterborough, which if you did, I don't know why you kept listening, to those that listened on YouTube and SoundCloud when I uploaded, whether it was the episodes that had 5 listens, 30, 40, or the one, the interview that had 150, not a big deal. Thank you. And thank you for choosing to stick. I know most of them were mom and dad. Thanks again for listening. Checks in the mail. But sincerely, everyone, thank you for listening. To everyone here at Trent Radio, Mauricio, Jill for giving me the opportunity in first year and continuing to pick up my dinky little sports show. To Dan and Pat that listened to me as an operator in first year. Rochelle, who was here last year and again this year. Both groups didn't give a crap about sports, but listened anyways. And thank you to everyone just for listening and just helping me along the way to give me this platform to start my broadcasting career. I don't know if it was good or not, if you enjoyed it, whatever. If you had a couple laughs at the stupid jokes I made, that's all we're here for. I hope I gave you a good story to listen to, and I hope I was able to change sports in a way for you, whether you liked it or not, whether you agreed with what I said or not. I hope you enjoyed it and took something positive from it and just enjoyed the ride, because it's been a hell of a ride for me. And I don't think I'll ever forget Trent Radio and this opportunity I've had here. So thank you to everyone that listens. I appreciate it a lot. And that's it for today. That's all the time we have today for your Sports Break, broadcasting on 92.7 C Triple FM through the facilities here at Trent Radio in the beautiful Peterborough, Canada. If you've missed previous shows, you can catch up on Twitter at SportsBreakTR. We won't be back next Tuesday. This is it. You'll have to look after the NHL and MLB season yourself. The offseason, Garrett Cole's going to the Yankees. I'm calling it right now. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, to check your smoke and carbon monoxide alarms. And for the last time, have a good day.